is Diana once again with Cafecito. This is our second interview for the day, so please don't comment that I have the same blouse on again, okay? Today I'm so pleased and so excited to have here Dr. Gloria Rodriguez. But I'm going to start with one question. What's your maiden name?
Garza.
Garza. I'll be darned, Garza. Never knew that. We always start with the schools you attended, so name me the schools you attended in Edgewood.
Yes, I attended Las Palmas. Well, even before that, because Las Palmas was going to be built, just the way we were talking about Kennedy being built.
Yeah.
So I went to Edgewood Elementary, or pre-primer, as they called it at that time.
And we're talking Edgewood Elementary on Couples Road, which is now Perales. I throw this at you for those listeners who are not aware. Go ahead, Gloria.
And I have a history on that one because I started there in the first grade, and then, of course, I was not as dominant in English as I was in Spanish. But then I had an incident where I wanted to be with my sister, as they said, well, this girl is very immature. So they put me in pre-primer, and that's how I started in the Edgewood district. And then moved on to Las Palmas Elementary School.
Right.
And from there I went to Edgewood Middle School and then Kennedy High School. Graduated in 1967.
67. Just a little idea of where you live. Just give me a proximity. Where was your house, Mom and Dad's house?
On 26th Street, which was adjacent to the very new subdivision of Las Palmas.
All the Las Palmas homes behind Las Palmas.
Yeah. Behind Las Palmas Shopping Center. Right next to the cemetery on Couples, which is where my father was built, and we lived right next to my uncle.
Okay.
But prior to that, we lived on Colima Street, outside of the Edgewood district, and had to live in the Alasan housing project for about 4 years. Okay. And then while our house was being built in the Edgewood district.
Okay. You and I walked the hallways of Our Lady of the Lake, but because of Tuesdays, Thursdays, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or I had a class on Monday, you and I never communicated, but I knew your face and I knew who you were because you were Miss Fiesta, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
You see, I remember all this stuff. What year were you Miss Fiesta?
1970.
1970. Well, you see,
one of the first Latinas.
I know
if not
that.
the first one.
I know, I remember that.
Yeah.
So you finished at Our Lady of the Lake what year?
I was a 3.5-year graduate. I started in 67 and graduated in 1970.
You see, and I didn't get out of the lake till 74. So I know that you became a teacher because I remember that. You see, I keep up with everybody in Edgewood. It's amazing who I keep up with. You were an elementary teacher where?
Well, I was in this program called Project Teacher Excellence at Our Lady of the Lake to learn to get my certification in bilingual education, to go back to your community to teach. Correct. It was a war and poverty program. I could not teach at Edgewood where I came from because my brother-in-law was a member of the school board. So I received a call in December from the principal saying, I understand you're going to be one of the first bilingual teachers. We need you over here. Right around the corner from where we're at right now at Cable Elementary School.
Yeah, you're right down the street.
On Penn Road.
Yes.
And that's where I had a group of first grade children from 4 classrooms in December who the teachers said, can't do anything with these kids. They're vegetable, slow learners, mentally retarded, try to do something with them through your bilingual education. And I thought it was a challenge. I took on the challenge and worked with them for 1.5 years. There were about 35 children. Of the 35 came out. 30 moved on to the 3rd grade because I stayed with them throughout their second year. And 5 of them were retained. And I have to tell you, one of the 5 that I decided to keep up was the reason I started AVANCE. And she was my pet that I would always take care of, making sure that she learned to read. I knew it was going to be difficult for me to move her on.
But you knew she could do it.
I knew she could do it, but she was one of 12 children in the family, and she just needed that background that she didn't have, so I wanted to give her a lot of attention. To make a long story short, I did not want her to be placed with one teacher that she was placed with. And unfortunately, an incident happened when she was in my classroom where I continued to tutor her so that she could do better. The teacher walks into my classroom and the little girl runs out tries to run out the door, and that teacher grabbed her and said, "I told you never to come into this classroom," throws her against the wall, and she lands in the trash can. That was what I call my epiphany moment, because it was like, it made me think of where my life was going to be. Was I going to go back to school to Our Lady of the Lake, become a principal, and get rid of that teacher? Should never have been teaching. But then I came across the whole notion of early childhood education and the importance of working with parents. And I also related it back to my own family, my mother.
Because you were Spanish dominant.
Very
Yeah, so that they're alone. Yeah.
She only knew Spanish.
Yeah.
But and learned English later on. But she only went to the 3rd grade. She had a lot of trials and tribulations. My father died when I was 2. Left her a widow with 5 girls. She was poor. Did not have the skills to get a professional job.
Well, of course, yeah.
She worked in the as a pecan sheller and making dresses.
Yeah, yeah.
So she had the work ethic. She was tremendous. And the thing is, being a child of an immigrant, my grandfather was born in Mexico, and my father was born in Mexico. They had this work ethic, and this, my kids are going to make it regardless of all the setbacks.
Of course.
So at that moment in my life, when that child was thrown in the trash can and I wanted to do something about it, I had been trained to take care of children and to change the world, as we were told. I had to say, how am I best going to change the educational conditions of our people? And I decided to work with parents who had children under the age of 3, when the whole brain is being developed and the foundation.
Oh my goodness, they're amazing at that age.
So at Our Lady of the Lake, I took a research class, and I did research on the parents of those children that I worked with. And I tested my hypothesis that they loved their children, they wanted the best for them, but they did not understand their role as teachers. They did not know what was expected of them or their children.
They didn't know what to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, sure.
And this is when I said, well, if they don't know this, let's teach them. But the one question that I asked in my research that changed my philosophy of how AVANCE should be shaped was relating it back to my mother. Because even though she had all these setbacks and poverty and all that, she never lost hope. She had goals and dreams and ideals of all her children, even though my father died in a very tragic death. But what happened is that I asked the parents in this research class, how far do you think your children are going to go to school? And they said the 7th grade.
Yeah.
I said, how far did you go? The 7th grade.
Yeah.
So no iba a haber cambios.
No.
So this is when I said, no. A parent should always have high hopes, aspirations, and dreams, as should the teachers, right? And so I not only wanted to help the parents help their children, have the best foundation, but I also wanted the parents to be advocates for their children. So if they were ever thrown in the trash can, they would go fight for them. And this was my vision of what I wanted to start, and I call it my mission in life, my destiny, because before you know it, I found money to start AVANCE in the Mirasol housing project. There was one AVANCE that had started in Dallas, Texas, only lasted 3 years, by 2 doctoral students at Cornell University. One lasted only 2 weeks, and the other one stayed on. And I was put in charge of the San Antonio project, and she was put in charge of the Dallas project. And so
Okay, you're talking to me about the program that you had right there at the Mirasoles.
Yes.
Mirasoles is the housing project right behind Las Palmas.
Yes, it was they asked me, where would you like Avance to be? And I said, I want it in Mirasol, walking distance from where I was reared. And if it works there, it can work anywhere. And so this is where we started at the.
How long did you, what year did you start Avance?
It started in 1973.
73?
1973. As I said, there
Because
was
you were in charge of that for how long?
32 and a half
32 years, yeah.
Well, there was an Avance that had started in 1971 in Dallas.
Yeah.
It closed down. I was put in charge of the Avance in San Antonio, and Willie was put in charge of the Avance in Dallas. That died in 3 years. 20 years later, I took it back to Dallas and to 9 other cities throughout Texas and in California. And so the thing is that I wanted to incorporate in that program what my philosophy was. The program that had started in Dallas was only taking care of the mothers and the children as teachers. What I wanted to do at Avance in Mirasol, because many of those mothers I knew, I went to school with,
Of course,
And
you're in the neighborhood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I said, what we need is to build the support system for those parents. The reason my mother made it, she didn't say I was only going to go to the 3rd grade. She knew I could go as far as I could. But it was because she had hope. And why did she have hope? Because she had support. My uncle lived next door. My grandfather moved in, became my father when my father was killed. And so she knew all the neighbors, helping neighbors. And that was the concept that I said. Had she not had that support, she would have been weak, and then maybe she wouldn't have had hope.
That's right.
So let's incorporate in this program the social support system, where we would say, okay, parents, you need to help your children this way. They need to know the colors, the numbers, the shapes, whatever. And this is your role as a teacher. But first, you have to be strong and make sure that, if there is violence in the home, if there are drugs, because there were a lot of drugs in the Mirasol Housing Project, let's do something about it. So we started a community watch program where neighbor helped neighbors. There were 1,000 children in that one swing, so we created a little playground structure. So it was working with the entire community, and that is the Avance that I started and that I left. To me, it was the answer, is working with the entire community, hiring at least half of the people from that community so that they could be role models for the rest of the community.
Now, the Avance program, I've seen the building across from the railroad tracks, the train station, the Talinio. Okay, so they still have an office there.
No, in fact,
No?
that was our national headquarters.
Okay.
And so before I left, we raised $5 million because I said, I'm going to leave, but I want to leave a national headquarters so that Avance could stay alive and keep growing.
Okay.
We don't have to keep paying rent.
Yeah.
And so then I left in 2006, and they sold the building. And
Oh,
so
okay,
that
okay.
was
Because that's the last time I saw an Avance sign.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the Avance sign is
I think
there.
the sign's still there. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was unfortunate because we worked very hard to raise $5 million. But the Avance is not a building. Avance is the concept. And when I left is I said, take care of my baby. Because you give it your whole life. For 32 years. You saw it grow from its infancy. I struggled to keep it alive. And then the successes were amazing.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, I remember, and not that I could recall, but I remember there were interviews. I remember seeing you on the news. I remember seeing you in the newspaper. I mean, it was a
Huge.
wonderful program.
And well, the successes came from mothers that became teachers and nurses, and just the guys became policemen. I mean, we had a lot of professional people that went on to college. If you look at our statistics, we had 90. Let's see, 90 something percent. Let's just say 93% of the parents, or 96% of parents have dropped out of school. Of the parents of those
Correct.
young children.
Right.
Then 18 years later, we did a follow-up, and then 96% of the children graduated.
Wow,
So we
wow, wow.
reversed
Yes,
generation.
yes.
And half of them were going on to college.
Wow.
That's success.
Yeah,
And that is
yeah.
why AVANCE, because they couldn't believe that people that were already kind of said, you can't do anything about the people, there's drugs and crime, and they don't care about their children. They love their children. What are you
They'll
talking
do
about?
anything.
They
Yeah.
just need help. And so we were so successful that all of a sudden we started having all these visitors. We came out on the New York Times.
I remember.
New York Times twice in the front page. ABC, Good Morning America. We had Prince Charles come and visit us.
Really? And you know what? I bet I remember that. I bet I do.
1988.
I think I do.
And
Remember that.
it was what an experience to have a prince, which
It's
now,
now
a king, come visit the
I took
parents.
pictures of that.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
And we're talking to Yvonne, those of you who are wondering who Gloria and I are talking to. Yvonne is right there with the camera. They're saying, yeah, the girls are gone. Look at that. They're talking in the air.
Yeah, exactly. It made the front page.
Yeah.
We had
I
also
do remember.
Barbara Bush came
Yeah.
to visit us twice. Rosalind Carter. And all of a sudden I'm being invited to all of these meetings to present testimony before Congress. And I was also asked to speak to congressmen in a boat in Captiva Island. And the chief state school officers invited me to come in. So the thing is that we were pioneers in the field of early childhood, working with parents. Because when I started, they would say, oh, work with parents, this is a very private matter. I look how great I came out and nobody helped me with my, help my parents. That was the philosophy then. And to me, every parent loves their child, and they need support at one point or another. You could lose somebody through, everybody has trials and tribulations, but no man is an island.
I've told people so many times, my 30 years in Edgewood, I have come across, I don't want to sound ugly, the most uneducated people with no common sense whatsoever. But the moment I sat with them, I'd say, what do you want for him? Quiero lo mejor. Miss Herrera, quiero lo mejor. Quiero que ellos terminen. No quiero que trabajen duro. So I don't care who the parent was. They always wanted the best for that child.
And that was the entry to AVANCE. We would knock on doors and we'd say, do you have a child under the age of 3? Yes. Do you love that child? And I say, of course I love that child. Okay, do you want him to graduate from high school? Yes. Well, we're here to help you. And my gosh, and not only did we help that child, but of those parents that had dropped out, half of them also went back to school. And they themselves said, my gosh, if what I did with my child really made a difference now, there's hope for me, And so we have had so many successes, and my gratification of running a very successful program is that I get to see the feedback, I get to see the fruits of our labor and get feedback from those participants many years later. Because you affect one generation, you're going to affect many generations. And to me, that is my legacy in the sense that we impacted the lives of many people for generations to come. And I was there 32 and a half years. We were recognized in the White House twice as one of the best early childhood programs in the nation. So to me, it was like given so many awards and recognition. It was like, okay, but they were affirming the importance of the work we were doing and how it needed to spread. And now You look at so many of these kind of programs popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that.
Okay. You're telling me about the programs and how many looked at AVANCE and saw that as a model to
Yes.
continue on?
Yes.
What else do you have to say about that?
Well, we would have all these visitors come and visit us, but one of the most important visitors that came was the president of Carnegie Corporation of New York. I didn't know who he was. There was all these people that came and visit. And he said, this program needs to be nationalized. And I said, who is that man? President of one of the largest foundations.
Carnegie, wow.
So he gave us about $1 million to try to create a national office. The building that you were talking about housed the national office. And then he kept inviting me to all of these meetings. I went to speak with him at the JFK School of Government at Harvard. And then he's the one that invited me to Captiva Island to speak to the congressman. So he opened a lot of doors and would invite me to have all these, to be a speaker at all these meetings. And that was my role a large part of the time. But what it did, it brought us $1 million from Ford, $1 million from Hasbro, on and on. The Hilton Foundations gave us another $1 million. Before you know, we were a little non-profit organization in the Mirasol Housing Project. And then we started in the Lincoln Courts, and then we went to Alassane. And then all of a sudden we're like, you know, have all this meaning because Dr. Hamburg wanted us to expand it nationally. He said, this is the program that is the answer to so many of the problems that we're facing in very poor communities.
And to this minute, Gloria, we're still seeing it.
It's still
sadly, so sadly that we're still seeing it.
Yes.
You know, you mentioned the prince, who is now king.
Yeah.
You mentioned Mr. Carnegie. You mentioned presidents. Give me an idea. Who else did you sit with to communicate with?
Well, I met with Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
I was invited to go to France. So I was one of 12 individuals invited to go to France to study their family policies. And Hillary Clinton was there. Got to go to dinner and a one-to-one with her.
Wow.
It was unbelievable. But she also opened a lot of doors. And when she became First Lady, they had two White House conferences on early childhood. And they invited me twice. And I brought two individuals with me, two AVANCE babies that grew up. One was a school teacher, and the other one was in the area of business, accounting. And so that was an experience for them and their families because
wow,
they went, and so so that opened the door for me to become a member of the Presidential Commission on the Education of Hispanics. Educational excellence for Hispanic Americans.
Meanwhile, back at home,
yes.
did you marry?
Oh yes.
Children.
I had my own prince.
Children.
Well, I have 3 children, and I married a wonderful man. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary.
Oh my God.
When I lived on Colima Street, he lived on San Carlos Street, which was a few blocks away. He's from the barrio. Graduated from Lanier High School. A wonderful man. Talk about support. I could not have done what I did. Traveled. And have 3 children, and work on my doctorate, and write a book called Raising Nuestros Niños. Had it not been for my husband, Salvador Rodriguez. He is extremely bright, an engineer, but very loving and caring, and just encouraged me to just do what was in my heart. And before we got married, I said, we're going to do da-da-da-da. And one of them was to get my doctorate. But it was so hard. Once you have children, and I have 3. In fact, I had 4. The first child died right as I was starting AVANCE. I was pregnant with my baby. I didn't even know I was pregnant. And she died at 2 months, and I could have left AVANCE right then and there. It can kill anybody to lose a child. And then their first child. But with his strength, God's strength, and some
And his support.
Then we made it, and we had 3 other children. And so
Grandchildren, Gloria?
grandchildren 6.
Ah, chihuahua, ya lleva 6.
Yeah. 2 boys and 4 beautiful girls, and I'm very, very blessed. I have had a very fulfilling and full life. We have, now that we're retired, well, kind of retired, I'm on the Macri board, one of the founding board members of Macri, Mexican American Civil Rights Institute.
Okay.
It's like we got to do things now together, and is traveling a lot together now as I retired. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary in Hawaii, and
you.
we just had a great time. We keep traveling.
Good for you.
Yes.
Anything you want to add as we close down, as we
I have a
end?
question.
Question.
Is anyone following in your footsteps?
And my children.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, my daughter Vanessa. She's my only daughter. She's just so special. She has her degree in psychology and business, and has a master's in public administration, and her certification in nonprofit management. So she started her own nonprofit where she sees individuals that have a need. She sees other individuals that want to fulfill that need, social connections, and she connects them both. And so, in fact, the last project she was involved with dealt with Uvalde, where she saw a need, and then and she said the parents need something to connect with their children that just were slaughtered and killed in such a terrible way. So she went to Monarch and got them to give plaques, got somebody else to get the pictures on the plaques of each child, and started a memorial site in front of the school with each of those plaques of the children. And it was just so beautiful. And then gave each of the parents the plaque that they can put in their own little garden.
That's wonderful.
Or in
Yes.
their home. So she's got a very, very big heart, and God bless her, for what she's just doing. But I think everyone that was a part of AVANCE also, touched so many lives, and I know that they feel as gratified as I do, or as my daughter does, when you go out and help somebody and make a difference in their life.